February 8, 2021. Henry and Lavenia Taylor are on Facebook Live eating crab legs, talking to their followers. Seems normal enough. Then Henry starts going off about Lavenia's friends going to college. Gets upset. Starts threatening violence. And Lavenia? She's laughing it off, trying to calm him down, redirecting the conversation. Watch what happens.
I'm your gyro and I'm some thought ass nigga. You want a gyro? I'm worth more.
First
than I'm talking about.
That's why I got you crab eggs and shrimp.
You sure you want to take it there? Talk to me nice. Cause I'm about to you up. I really got anger issues because I'm short as I have nothing to live for. I will go back to prison.
And 67 days later, Henry Taylor would make good on that threat. Except the person he set on fire wasn't her friend. It was Lavenia. We're covering this case today because everything was documented, everything was visible, and it still ended in tragedy. Before we get into this, I need you to understand something. This case hits different because we're not piecing together what happened from police reports and witness statements. We got actual footage of their relationship. We can see the dysfunction playing out in real time. We can hear the threats. We can watch Lavenia trying to manage a man who openly admits he has anger issues, who tells the world he'll go back to prison, who fantasizes about violence on camera. So today we're walking through this case together. We're gonna look at who Lavenia was, who Henry was, what their relationship really looked like when the cameras were on, and what happened when they turned off. And we're gonna talk about what this case teaches us about recognizing danger, about the difference between love and control, and about why sometimes the most visible warning signs are the ones we ignore. Let's get into it. Lavenia Gardner, known to everybody as Viv, was 35 years old in 2021. Born and raised in South Chicago, specifically the South Deering neighborhood. Now, if you know Chicago, you know South Deering. It's not an easy area to grow up in. Crime rates are high, violence is common, resources are limited. But Lavenia? She became the type of person who brought light into dark situations. People who knew her describe her the same way over and over again. Joyful, vibrant, the life of every gathering. Someone who genuinely cared about making other people happy. She had a smile that could change the energy in a room. On social media, she was active, she was present, she shared her life openly with her friends and followers. And like a lot of us, Lavenia had been through some things. Life in South Chicago shaped her. She learned early how to laugh through pain, how to keep going when things got hard, how to find joy even when circumstances weren't joyful. That resilience, that ability to stay positive, that's what people remember about her. By 2020, Lavenia was focused on building her future. She had gone back to school. She was working on herself, working on her education, making moves to create a better life. And that's when she met Henry Taylor. Henry Taylor was 31 years old when he met Lavenia in the spring of 2020. He was her neighbor, lived right around the corner from her in South Deering. And from the beginning, Henry was upfront about certain things. He had a criminal record. Theft charges, vehicle-related offenses. He'd done time. He'd been to prison and come home. Now, having a record doesn't automatically make someone dangerous in a relationship. People make mistakes, people change, people deserve second chances. That's not the issue here. The issue is what Henry told people about himself. On that February 8th Facebook Live, the one we're gonna break down in detail, Henry openly admits, "I really got anger issues cause I'm short as hell. I really have the short man syndrome and I'll be ready to explode." He's calling it short man syndrome like it's something cute, something funny. But then he follows it up with this.
I really got anger issues because I'm short as I have nothing to live for. I will go back to prison.
And he's saying this on camera with his wife sitting next to him, to an audience of people watching them eat crab legs. Henry also describes himself during that same live. He talks about how when someone hit their car, his immediate reaction was violence. Lavenia had to physically stop him because she knew what he was about to do. He talks about not caring who gets hurt. He talks about having nothing to lose. So we got a man who openly admits to anger issues, who admits he's ready to explode, who says he'll go back to prison without hesitation, who threatens to break necks and set people on fire. And we got a woman who's trying to build her life up, who's going back to school, who's looking for stability and love. How did these two people end up together? Spring 2020. Lavenia and Henry meet because they're neighbors. They live literally a block and a half away from each other in South Deering. And like Henry himself describes on that Facebook Live, their relationship started purely physical. Listen to how Henry tells the story. Like when I first met you, remember I was like, man shorty, what's up, you know what I'm saying? Lavenia responds, no I don't. But Henry keeps going, talking about how he'd come over, she'd cook for him, and then they'd hook up. He describes it like a transaction. Convenience. He even says, you was convenient. I was happy. I'm like, oh, I got some right around the corner. Convenience. That's how he describes the woman he would later marry. And Lavenia? On that same live, she's laughing, trying to play it off, but you can hear in her voice she's not comfortable with how he's describing their relationship to thousands of people. She tries to reframe it, tries to make it sound more romantic, more meaningful. But Henry's not having it. Now, what started as casual hookups between neighbors eventually developed into something deeper. At least for Lavenia. She started catching feelings. She started seeing a future with him. And despite Henry's anger issues, despite his criminal record, despite the fact that he openly admitted to having a short fuse, Lavenia fell in love with who she thought he could be. That's important. She fell in love with his potential, not his reality. Because the reality? The reality was a man who would go from zero to rage in seconds. A man who threatened violence casually. A man who saw relationships as transactional. But Lavenia saw his goofy side, his fun side, the moments when he made her laugh. And she convinced herself that if she loved him enough, if she was patient enough, if she gave him enough attention and affection, he would change. How many of us have been there? How many of us have loved someone's potential instead of accepting their reality? Their relationship was turbulent from the start. They'd break up, get back together, break up again, reconcile again. It was a cycle. But by late 2020, they decided to make it official. They decided to get serious. They decided to build a future together. And on January 30th, 2021, they flew to Las Vegas and got married. January 30th, 2021. Las Vegas, Nevada. Lavenia Gardner is about to marry Henry Taylor in a small ceremony with close family and friends. And we have footage of this wedding. We have their vows. We can see exactly what each of them promised to the other. Let's start with Lavenia's vows because they reveal everything about how she saw this marriage.
You came into my life at a time where I couldn't even possibly imagine my worth. I promise to give you my eternal loyalty and heart, for you are the only man I would ever need. I will love you, and I just want to thank you for choosing me. You chose me.
Lavenia is thanking this man for choosing her. She's positioning herself as the grateful one, the lucky one, the one who should be thankful that he decided to marry her. She's promising eternal loyalty, promising to never give up on him, promising to fulfill his every need, promising to be his rock when the world is crumbling. These vows reveal a woman who has placed this man above herself. A woman who sees him as the prize. A woman who believes her value comes from being chosen by him. Now let's look at Henry's vows.
Lavenia, I love you so much. I love you just because you make me so happy.
Can I kiss him yet?
I'm going to go attend to yours, remember?
Yeah, I got a book.
Okay, and I'm going to leave a little extra. And you hold his hand if you can.
Okay.
He loves her because she makes him happy. He cherishes her because he wants her in his life. Everything is about what she does for him, how she makes him feel. Compare the depth and vulnerability of Lavenia's vows to the surface-level nature of Henry's. Compare her promises of eternal loyalty and unwavering support to his statement that he loves her because she makes him happy. What happens when she stops making him happy? After the ceremony, they're pronounced husband and wife. There's footage of Lavenia absolutely glowing, dancing, celebrating. She's over the moon. She finally got her dream wedding. She finally married the man she loved. She changed her name to Lavenia Taylor on social media. She started posting constantly about being a wife, about finding her person, about being in love. And for a few weeks, everything seemed good. They traveled together. Miami trips, weekend getaways, spontaneous road trips. Lavenia posted about Henry surprising her with flowers and edible arrangements. She posted about finally finding stability with someone who accepts her flaws and stays through mood swings. She posted about being ready to be a wife, having the heart and strength and patience for it. On social media, they looked happy. They looked in love. They looked like a couple who had found their forever. But social media only shows what people want you to see. And what was happening in their day-to-day life was completely different from the image Lavenia was projecting online. 9 days after their wedding, on February 8, 2021, the world got to see what their relationship really looked like when Henry and Lavenia went on Facebook Live together. February 8, 2021. 9 days into their marriage. Henry and Lavenia decide to go on Facebook Live while they're eating dinner together. They're having crab legs, lobster, corn, potatoes. It's supposed to be a relaxed evening, just sharing a meal with their followers. Now, before we break down what happens during this live, I need to give you context. Eating videos, couples going live together while they eat, this was common. People did it all the time. It's supposed to be lighthearted, fun, a way to connect with your audience while you're doing something normal like having dinner. But what we're about to see is not lighthearted. What we're about to see is a masterclass in dysfunction, in verbal harm, in public disrespect, and in how someone who claims to love you can tear you down in front of thousands of people. Lavenia starts the live excited. She's talking about going back to school, talking about her friends who graduated college, celebrating their accomplishments. She's in a good mood. She's proud of herself for taking that step to continue her education. And immediately, Henry has a problem with it. Watch how this starts. Lavenia is talking about her friends. What? Courtney graduated college, Coco went to college, Cynthia went to college, they already went to school. She's celebrating her people. She's happy for them. And Henry's response? And I'm not saying nothing is wrong because I'm proud of you, don't get it twisted, I am proud that you went back to school, don't get it twisted. 'Cause Courtney got education out of a cereal box. He immediately has to put down her friends. Can't just let her be happy for them. Has to diminish their accomplishments. And then he says, I don't care about who homie got their education. My homie got education, that's all that matter. I don't care about what no other got. Lavenia is trying to keep the peace. You can hear it in her voice. She's trying to redirect, trying to de-escalate. But Henry keeps going. I don't give a damn about nobody else. He over here on his live. And Lavenia responds, no, I'm on your live. Matter of fact, I'm gonna end, you ain't on you on your own live, I'm gonna end mine and get on yours. They're both streaming simultaneously to their own audiences. And Henry is getting more and more upset that Lavenia is talking about her friend's accomplishments on her live. He's making it about him. Making it about his people. Making it competitive. Then Lavenia tries to lighten the mood, tries to change the subject. But Henry is locked in now. He says, don't put me on your live 'cause I don't mess with some of them on your page. He's talking about her followers, her friends, people she knows. And then comes the first major threat. I'm waiting to run into one of your friends. I'm gonna open his head up and set his ass on fire. Stop. Let that sit for a second. This man just threatened to harm one of his wife's friends on camera. Specifically said he's gonna set someone on fire. And Lavenia? She's still trying to laugh it off, still trying to change the subject, still trying to manage his mood. Why didn't she end the live right there? Why didn't she call him out? Why didn't she leave? Because this is what that type of relationship looks like. This is what control looks like. You learn to manage their emotions. You learn to de-escalate. You learn that standing up to them makes things worse, so you try to keep the peace instead. And the audience watching this live? Thousands of people saw this threat. Nobody called the police. Nobody reported it. Because it seemed like just talk, just Henry being Henry, just a couple having a disagreement on camera. But Henry wasn't done. After threatening to set Lavenia's friend on fire, Henry starts mocking their marriage. On camera. 9 days after their wedding. It's 'cause you ain't really, we ain't married. Boy, we went to a Photoshop, that's Photoshop. Lavenia tries to play along. Yeah, that's Photoshop. But you can hear the hurt in her voice. This woman just vowed eternal loyalty to this man 9 days ago. She's still posting wedding photos, still celebrating being a wife. And he's telling thousands of people their marriage was fake, was Photoshop, was a filter. That was a marriage filter, boy. Downloaded the marriage filter on the iPhone. He thinks it's funny. He's laughing. But Lavenia is not laughing the same way. She's uncomfortable. She's trying to go along with the joke, but it's cutting her. Then the conversation shifts to Lavenia's mother. And Henry starts talking about her in a completely inappropriate way. Your mama got a potato butt. He's making inappropriate comments about his wife's mother on camera. And when Lavenia tries to redirect again, he continues. 'Cause soon as she get on the phone with you, she gonna say, oh, he always posting stuff. Henry, stop saying my name like that, we wind up pregnant. He's making inappropriate jokes about Lavenia's mother. This is not playful banter between a couple. This is disrespect. This is crossing boundaries that should never be crossed. And Lavenia? She's still trying to keep the peace. She changes the subject to the food. She asks him to open her drink. She does anything she can to steer the conversation away from his inappropriate comments. But Henry is on a roll now. They start talking about their car getting hit, and Henry describes his immediate reaction. This man hit our car, right? I just got the truck too, by the way, but he hit our other car. Listen, this man, get out the car. Listen, I'm so peaceful. Why did I grab? I'm like, let me get out this car. I'm like, don't make me, cause we gonna hit this man in the face. Lavenia interjects, trying to explain why she had to calm him down. And Henry continues. I'm like, man, don't let me do this to you. I don't want to hurt you. Y'all, I really be saying worse than this, but I am on live, so I will go back to prison, and I ain't going for a fight. I'm trying to break your neck. There it is again. The casual threat of extreme violence. Not I'll punch you. Not we'll fight. He's talking about breaking someone's neck, ending their life. And he's admitting he'll go back to prison for it without hesitation. Then he says, I really got anger issues cause I'm short as hell. I really have the short man syndrome, and I'll be ready to explode. This is Henry describing himself. Nobody is making him say this. He's volunteering this information to thousands of viewers. He has anger issues. He's ready to explode. He will go back to prison. He doesn't care about the consequences. And still Lavenia stays. Still she tries to manage him. Still she tries to make it work. What? Because she loves him? Or because she's afraid of what happens if she doesn't? As the live continues, the conversation shifts multiple times. At various points, Henry discusses inappropriate topics while Lavenia tries to redirect. He talks over her, dismisses her attempts to change subjects, and continues making her visibly uncomfortable. At one point during their discussion about food, Henry complains about what Lavenia bought him. You bought me €1, I'm some. And Lavenia interrupts. That's what the hell you want €1, I'm worth more. She tries to joke. That's why I got you crab and shrimp. But Henry's already on to criticizing. Euro, you wanted €1? First of all, I like one of them that sell weed and loose squares all day, and all they got enough money to do is get €1. I look like, stop playing with me. Instead of being grateful that his wife bought him food, he's complaining about the type of food. He's telling her she didn't do enough. He's making her feel inadequate for trying to do something nice. Then there's a moment where Lavenia asks him to open her drink because of her nails. And watch how he responds. I don't want to, it's the nails for me, she says. I don't have nothing, my hand's dirty. And she has to pacify him. It's okay, babe. Even for something as simple as opening a drink, there's this dynamic where she has to ask nicely, has to manage his mood, has to make sure he doesn't get upset over the smallest request. Later in the live, they're talking about taxes and drinks, and Henry says, I bought you a Pepsi sitting right there, and I bought your icy. And then he raises his voice. Hey, my man, you getting too loud, you getting too loud. Lavenia tries to respond calmly. I bought you too. Hey, you're gonna have to speak to me, you have to talk to me nice, babe. And listen to Henry's response. Like this, I bought you too. Yeah, Pepsi and iced, wrong. Next time you get in with somebody, you just calm it down, be like, hey, talk to me nice, talk to. Then he says, I used to say that cause I'm about to mess you up. He's telling her that when she asks him to talk to her nicely, his response is that he's about to hurt her. And he admits, I really got anger issues cause I'm short as hell. I really have the short man syndrome, and I'll be ready to explode. This is who Henry is. Someone who admits he has serious anger problems. Someone who says he's ready to explode at any moment. Someone who threatens violence over the smallest things. And this entire conversation is happening on Facebook Live. Thousands of people are watching this. Thousands of people are seeing how Henry treats Lavenia. And nobody does anything. Near the end of the live, Henry and Lavenia are talking about their relationship dynamics. And Henry makes several telling statements. When discussing their relationship, Lavenia says, I guess people always say you just really got to find, there's no such thing as a perfect person, but you have to find a perfect person for you because I ain't perfect. Henry responds, me neither, thing about me, I ain't no perfect, and I do not, I've never told nobody you was perfect because you're not. Then Lavenia says, my thing is nobody, we go through things like everybody else. But she corrects herself. Well, I ain't gonna say we go through things like everybody else cause we really don't. Henry agrees. We don't. Yeah. Like we have, but we're not perfect is what I'm saying. We do go through little things, it will literally be months, like 6 months, 5 months, we won't even have an argument for 5 and 6 months, you know what I'm saying? And then Henry says something that reveals everything. Shut the hell up, 'cause I'm the man. Even when they're trying to have a conversation about their relationship, he has to assert dominance. Has to remind her and everyone watching that he's in charge. He's the man. What he says goes. Later they're talking about an incident with their cat and Henry says, "I'm telling you, she keep playing, I'll beat you in your sleep." Lavenia responds, "Baby." But Henry doesn't laugh. He just says, "What up?" It's not a joke to him. This live goes on for a significant amount of time. And throughout the entire thing, we see the same patterns over and over again. Henry disrespects Lavenia. Lavenia tries to de-escalate. Henry threatens violence. Lavenia laughs it off. Henry asserts dominance. Lavenia submits. This is their dynamic. This is their relationship. And it's all documented, all visible, all happening in front of thousands of people who did nothing to intervene. After that February 8th live, Lavenia continued posting on social media like everything was fine. She posted about being in a happy place in her heart. She posted about not letting anyone take her joy. She posted about Henry, about their relationship, about being a wife. But people who watched that live, people who knew them, they were concerned. They saw the threats. They heard Henry talking about setting people on fire, about breaking necks, about going back to prison. They saw how he treated Lavenia on camera. But what could they do? Lavenia wasn't asking for help. She was publicly defending the relationship, publicly celebrating her marriage, publicly presenting everything as good. And Henry? Henry kept being Henry. On social media he posted about Lavenia too. But his posts had a different energy. Possessive energy. Controlling energy. The weeks went by. February turned into March. March turned into April. And on social media, everything looked fine. But in their home, in their private moments, things were getting worse. We don't know all the details of what happened between February 8th and April 16th. We don't know how many arguments they had, how many times Lavenia thought about leaving. What we do know is this. On April 16, 2021, Lavenia made her last social media post. "I'm in a happy place in my heart, so I'm not going to let no one take joy from me." That was posted in the morning. By early the next morning, Lavenia would be fighting for her life. April 16, 2021. The exact details of what triggered the argument between Henry and Lavenia that night remain unclear. But what we know for certain is this. At some point that evening they got into a disagreement. According to investigators and the timeline that was later established, the argument started and then seemed to calm down. Lavenia, thinking things had settled, went to bed. She fell asleep in their bedroom in their apartment on the 10600 block of South Hockey Avenue in South Deering, Chicago. And while she was sleeping, Henry got up. He went and got a bottle of lighter fluid. He got a lighter. He walked into the bedroom where Lavenia was laying there, completely vulnerable, completely trusting that she was safe in her own home with her own husband. And at approximately 1:30 in the morning on April 16th, Henry doused Lavenia's entire body with lighter fluid. Then he lit her on fire. Imagine waking up to that. Imagine being pulled from sleep by the sensation of flames consuming your body. Imagine the terror. Imagine the pain. Imagine realizing that the person you married, the person you vowed to love forever, the person you thanked for choosing you, is standing there watching you burn. Lavenia's body immediately reacted. She jumped out of the bed. She was on fire. Her clothes were burning. Her skin was burning. Her hair extensions were melting into her flesh. She ran to the bathroom and jumped in the shower, desperately trying to put out the flames. But the damage was already catastrophic. The water wasn't helping enough. Her skin was already melting. So Lavenia ran out of the apartment, still in excruciating pain. And she ran through the streets of South Deering at 1:30 in the morning, trying to find help. She ran for 2 blocks. 2 full blocks while her body was severely injured, while she was in unimaginable pain. She made it to Engine 81 fire station on South Hockey Avenue. And she pounded on that door with everything she had left. When those firefighters opened that door, they saw something that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. The firefighters at Engine 81 had seen a lot in their careers. Fires, accidents, injuries, emergencies of every kind. But when they opened that door and saw Lavenia standing there, they knew immediately this was different. Over 70% of her body was covered in second and third degree burns. Her skin had been severely damaged. Her hair extensions had fused to her flesh. She was barely conscious, in shock from the pain and trauma. But she was still able to speak. And the first thing she told those firefighters was who did this to her. My husband poured lighter fluid on my body and lit me on fire. Then she asked them a question. Am I going to die? The firefighters immediately called for emergency medical services and started rendering aid while they waited. And Lavenia kept talking. She told them, I knew my husband would try to kill me. I should have left him a long time ago. Think about that statement. I knew my husband would try to kill me. She knew. She knew he was capable of this. She knew he was dangerous. She knew her life was at risk. And she stayed anyway. The paramedics arrived and rushed Lavenia to Trinity Hospital. But her injuries were so severe that Trinity couldn't handle her case. She needed specialized burn treatment. So they transferred her to the University of Chicago Medical Center, one of the best trauma hospitals in the region. And while Lavenia was being rushed to the hospital, fighting to survive, what was Henry doing? After Henry set Lavenia on fire and watched her run out of the apartment, he didn't call 911. He didn't try to help her. He didn't rush her to the hospital. Instead, he started making phone calls. He called Lavenia's mother. He called her sister. He called her brother. And he told each of them the same thing. I set Lavenia on fire. Not there was an accident. Not something terrible happened. He told them he did it. Confessed to each family member individually. Described what he had done. Can you imagine getting that phone call? Your daughter, your sister, your family member, and their husband is calling you to tell you he just set her on fire? After making those calls, Henry didn't turn himself in. He didn't go to the police station. He didn't wait for law enforcement to arrive. He ran. He left the apartment and went into hiding. And while Lavenia was in the hospital undergoing emergency surgery, while her family was rushing to be by her side, while doctors were fighting to save her life, Henry was nowhere to be found. Police immediately obtained a search warrant for the apartment on South Hockey Avenue. When investigators arrived and processed the scene, they found exactly what Lavenia had described. An almost empty bottle of lighter fluid. A barbecue lighter. Evidence that matched her account completely. The physical evidence, combined with Lavenia's eyewitness testimony to the firefighters and Henry's own confessions to her family members, made this an open case in terms of who did it. The only question was, where is Henry Taylor? He stayed in hiding for days while Lavenia fought for her life in the burn unit. At the University of Chicago Medical Center, doctors did everything they could for Lavenia. She underwent multiple surgeries, skin graft procedures, advanced burn treatment. The medical team pulled out every resource they had to try to save her life. But the reality of burn injuries is this. When you have burns covering over 70% of your body, when those burns are second and third degree, when the damage goes beyond your skin into your tissues, muscles, and tendons, survival becomes extremely difficult. Lavenia's body had suffered catastrophic damage. And despite the incredible efforts of the medical team, despite her own fight to survive, her body couldn't sustain itself. On May 21, 2021, 35 days after Henry set her on fire, Lavenia Gardner Taylor passed away at the University of Chicago Medical Center. She was 35 years old. She had been married for 3 months and 22 days. The official cause was complications from thermal injuries. Her family was devastated. Her friends were heartbroken. The community was in shock. And the woman who had brought light and joy to everyone around her, who had smiled through pain her whole life, who had believed in love and loyalty and commitment, was gone. But even after her passing, Lavenia made sure justice would be served. Because she had identified her attacker to the firefighters. She had named Henry. She had told them exactly what happened. And that testimony, combined with the physical evidence in Henry's own confessions, meant that when Henry finally turned himself in, he had no defense. 5 days after Lavenia passed away, on May 26, 2021, Henry Taylor walked into the Rogers Park District Police Station and turned himself in. He was taken into custody and gave a videotaped confession to investigators. And in that confession, Henry admitted everything. He admitted to pouring lighter fluid on Lavenia while she slept. He admitted to lighting her on fire. He admitted to watching her burn. But even while confessing, Henry tried to minimize what he did. According to reports from investigators who were present during the confession, Henry made statements that showed zero remorse, zero empathy, zero humanity. He reportedly told detectives, "I wasn't even that close to her and she went up in flames." Like the distance somehow mattered. Like the fact that he wasn't standing directly next to her when he flicked that lighter made it less horrific. He was describing setting his wife on fire the same way you might describe lighting a candle. No emotion, no regret, no acknowledgement of the unimaginable pain and suffering he caused. Just a cold, factual description of what happened. On May 28, 2021, Henry appeared before a judge for his bond hearing. He was formally charged with first-degree murder, and the judge denied bond entirely. Henry Taylor was remanded to Cook County Jail to await trial. No bail, no release. He would stay locked up until his case was resolved. And as of the information available, Henry Taylor is awaiting trial. Still sitting in Cook County Jail. Still facing first-degree murder charges that, if convicted, could mean life in prison without the possibility of parole. After Lavenia's passing, her family and friends came together to make sure she got the funeral she deserved. They set up a GoFundMe titled "Help Us Lay Our Mermaid to Rest." The fundraiser raised $6,765. Every dollar came from people who loved Lavenia, who knew her, who wanted to honor her memory and give her family some financial relief during an impossible time. On May 22, 2021, just one day after Lavenia passed away, her loved ones gathered for her funeral service. They released purple balloons into the Chicago sky. Purple for peace, purple for courage, purple for light, purple for love. All the things Lavenia represented to the people who knew her. Her best friend, Sean Stevens Jr., posted about her on what would have been her birthday, June 8, 2021. "I can't seem to form the words for a long paragraph. Happy birthday, Viv. I love you and I miss you. Till we meet again." Then a few weeks later. "Had I known the last time we talked would be the last time we talk, I would have never hung up the phone. Viv Taylor, I miss you, best friend." Now, there's been some discussion about the timing of what happened. April 16th, the day Henry set Lavenia on fire, was Sean's birthday. And in the days leading up to April 16th, Lavenia had been posting constantly about Sean's birthday. Countdown posts, excited messages, plans to celebrate together. And we know from that February 8th Facebook Live that Henry had serious jealousy issues when it came to Lavenia's male friends. We know he got upset about her celebrating her friends' accomplishments. We know he made threats about people in her life. So some people have asked, did Lavenia's focus on Sean's birthday trigger Henry that night? Did jealousy play a role in why he chose April 16th to do what he did? We don't know for certain. Henry hasn't given a clear motive beyond reportedly saying they had an argument. But the timing is notable. And given everything we saw on that Facebook Live, given Henry's pattern of jealousy and possessiveness, it's worth considering. What we do know is that Sean loved Lavenia deeply as a best friend, as someone who was important in his life. And losing her the way he did has to carry a weight that's hard to imagine. Every year now, Lavenia's friends and family continue to celebrate her birthday. They post about her. They share memories. They make sure her name and her spirit stay alive. Because Lavenia Gardner Taylor was more than a victim. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, a wife. She was someone who brought joy to people. She was someone who deserved so much better than what Henry Taylor did to her. So now we got to talk about what this case means. What we can learn from it. What lessons we need to take away from Lavenia's story. First, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Henry told us exactly who he was on that February 8th Facebook Live. He told us he had anger issues. He told us he was ready to explode. He told us he would go back to prison. He told us he would break necks and set people on fire. Those weren't jokes. Those weren't exaggerations. Those were warnings. And thousands of people heard those warnings and did nothing. Because it seemed like just talk. Because it seemed like typical couple drama. Because we've gotten so used to seeing dysfunction on social media that we don't recognize danger when it's right in front of us. But Henry wasn't playing. Every threat he made, every violent statement he said, every controlling behavior he displayed, those were all signs of who he really was. And Lavenia paid the ultimate price for not believing him, for thinking she could love him into changing, for hoping his potential would become his reality. When someone tells you they're dangerous, believe them. Second, love cannot fix everything. Lavenia loved Henry. That's clear from her vows, from her social media posts, from the way she tried to manage his moods and keep the peace. She loved him deeply and genuinely. But her love couldn't fix his anger issues. Her love couldn't change his violent nature. Her love couldn't make him a safe person to be with. Because you cannot love someone into being different. You cannot sacrifice yourself hoping that eventually they'll become the person you need them to be. Love is not enough when the other person is dangerous. Love is not enough when your safety is at risk. Love is not enough when someone has literally told you they will hurt you. The most visible warning signs are sometimes the ones we ignore. This case had so many visible warning signs. Henry's threats on Facebook Live, his admission of anger issues, his controlling behavior, his pattern of disrespect. All of it was documented. All of it was visible to thousands of people. And nobody intervened. Nobody called the police when Henry threatened to set someone on fire. Nobody reached out to domestic violence resources on Lavenia's behalf. Nobody treated those threats as real until it was too late. We have to do better. When we see someone in danger, even if they're not asking for help, even if they're defending the relationship publicly, we need to speak up. We need to offer resources. We need to take threats of violence seriously. Fourth, leaving is not always possible and staying can be just as dangerous. We hear a lot about how dangerous it is to leave certain relationships. And that's absolutely true. But Lavenia's case shows us something else. Lavenia didn't leave. She stayed. She committed. She married him. She kept trying to make it work. And he still hurt her in the worst possible way. Sometimes staying is just as dangerous as leaving. Sometimes there is no safe option because the person you're with is fundamentally unsafe. The goal shouldn't be to figure out the perfect time or perfect way to manage someone who's shown you they're violent. The goal should be to get away, period. With help, with support, with a safety plan, but to get away. I want to talk for a minute about why Lavenia stayed. Because I know some people watching this are thinking, why didn't she just leave? The signs were there. He showed her who he was. Why did she marry him? Why did she stay? And those questions come from a place of not understanding how these relationships work. Lavenia grew up in South Deering, Chicago. An area where violence is common, where resources are limited, where people learn early how to survive in difficult circumstances. She learned to laugh through pain. She learned to find joy in hard situations. She learned resilience. But those same survival skills that helped her navigate a difficult environment also made her vulnerable to someone like Henry. Because when you're used to dealing with difficulty, when you're used to making the best of tough situations, when you're used to being strong and pushing through, you can convince yourself you can handle anything. You can convince yourself that your love is strong enough, that your patience is deep enough, that your commitment is real enough to make it work. And Henry knew exactly how to exploit that. He knew Lavenia was the type of person who would stay, who would try, who would give him chance after chance. He knew she valued loyalty and commitment. He knew she had promised to never give up on him. So he kept pushing, kept testing, kept escalating. And every time Lavenia stayed, every time she forgave him, every time she tried to make it work, it reinforced to Henry that he could do whatever he wanted and she wouldn't leave. That's how the cycle works. It's not about love. It's about power and control. And by the time Lavenia realized how dangerous Henry really was, by the time she knew he would try to hurt her, she was already married to him. Already living with him. Already emotionally invested in making it work. And even then, even knowing the danger, she might have thought, if I just don't provoke him, if I just keep the peace, if I just manage his moods, I can stay safe. But you cannot manage someone else's violence. You cannot control when they decide to hurt you. And you cannot love them into being safe. Lavenia did not deserve what happened to her. She did not cause it. She did not ask for it. Henry Taylor made a choice to set her on fire. That choice is on him and him alone. As of now, Henry Taylor is awaiting trial in Cook County Jail. He's been charged with first-degree murder. If convicted, he's looking at life in prison without the possibility of parole. The evidence against him is overwhelming. Lavenia's testimony to the firefighters. The physical evidence at the scene. Henry's confessions to Lavenia's family members. His own videotaped confession to police. The medical evidence documenting the extent of Lavenia's injuries. There's no real defense here. Henry did it. He admitted it. The only question is what the court decides his sentence should be. And for Lavenia's family, no sentence will ever be enough. No amount of prison time will bring her back. No verdict will undo the pain and trauma of losing her the way they did. But accountability matters. Justice matters. Making sure Henry Taylor never has the opportunity to hurt another person matters. Because Henry didn't just wake up on April 16th and decide to set his wife on fire. This was a pattern. This was an escalation. This was the result of a man who had anger issues, who threatened violence regularly, who saw relationships as transactional, who valued control over connection. The justice system can't bring Lavenia back, but it can make sure Henry Taylor pays for what he did. And it can send a message that this kind of violence will not be tolerated. We started this video talking about warning signs. About how this case was different because everything was documented, everything was visible, everything was broadcast to thousands of people. And I want to end by saying this. Lavenia's story is tragic. It's heartbreaking. It's infuriating. But it doesn't have to be meaningless. We can learn from this. We can do better. We can recognize the signs earlier. We can take threats seriously. We can support people who are in dangerous relationships even when they're not ready to leave. We can build communities where violence is not normalized, where control is not mistaken for love, where people feel safe asking for help. Because the truth is, there are people watching this video right now who are in relationships that look like Lavenia and Henry's. There are people who are managing someone else's moods, who are walking on eggshells, who are making themselves smaller to keep the peace. And I need you to hear this. You deserve better. You deserve to be loved in a way that feels safe. You deserve to be with someone who builds you up instead of tearing you down. You deserve to be in a relationship where you don't have to thank someone for choosing you because they feel grateful to have you too. Love should not hurt. Love should not threaten. Love should not control. And if you're in a situation where those things are happening, please reach out for help. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Talk to someone you trust. Make a safety plan. Get support. Because Lavenia knew. She told those firefighters, "I knew my husband would try to kill me. I should have left him a long time ago." Don't let that be your story. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't convince yourself that your love is enough to change someone who has shown you they're dangerous. Believe people when they show you who they are. Protect yourself. Choose your safety over someone else's potential. Lavenia Gardner Taylor deserved to live. She deserved to be happy. She deserved to grow old, to achieve her dreams, to be celebrated and loved and cherished. Instead, she passed away at 35 years old at the hands of the man who promised to love her. We can't bring her back, but we can honor her memory by learning from her story, by recognizing danger when we see it, by supporting people who need help, by building communities where this kind of violence is unacceptable. Rest in peace, Lavenia. Rest in power. Rest knowing that your story has been told, that your life mattered, that you will not be forgotten. And to everyone watching, stay safe. Pay attention. Trust your instincts. And remember that you deserve to be loved in a way that doesn't cost you your life. This has been Unseen Stories. If this video impacted you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And I'll see you in the next one.